In this section, we're going to learn how to code HTML. So for that reason, you need to download your code editor, and I would recommend downloading Visual Studio Code because it's free and it has a lot of extensions, but you can go ahead and download your favorite one. So once you download and install the code editor, you can just go ahead and open it. So this is the welcome screen in Visual Studio Code. I'm just going to give you guys a brief tour on how to use it. So for example, if we open a folder here on desktop and call it test, so we can go ahead and drag our folder into our coding workspace and then open it. So this is the welcome screen and this is our folder. So when you hover over, like, see, this is our Explorer tab. So when you open it, you see the test folder that we created. So you can create files here and then also folders inside the folder that you've just created. So for example, let's just create a folder and call it CSS and then press enter. And then inside CSS, we can drop down it and then create another folder, call it style.css. So you realize that the language mode has changed. So the reason I really like Visual Studio Code is, for example, when you select body and then you open it, it automatically opens the curly braces for you, and then by tabbing BGC, you see the Emmet abbreviations that pop up. So you can just select any of them, and then this is how you would write faster code when it comes to Visual Studio Code, but we will get to CSS later. I just wanted to show you guys. And then when the circle is a solid circle, that means you haven't saved your file. So what you have to do is press Ctrl S. So once you saved your file, you can close it here, and then we see that we created a folder called CSS. You might not have the icons here, and I'll show you how to install them. It's an extension, it's really easy. So let me just close this, and then let me just click on this tab here, and then click on the new file again and press index.html. Now we have an HTML file, and now you see that our language mode has changed to HTML. So for example, if we press exclamation and then press tab, see, I mean, the boilerplate gets automated. So this is a really good thing again about Visual Studio Code. And then when you hover over everything, it shows you and it explains you, and then it tells you the reference, and then you can click on it, and then it takes you to the reference tab and explains more about it if you're interested to read more. And let's open it in a browser. Two ways you can do to open it in a browser is either by right clicking and then going open in default browser, refresh, test one. So this is how you can open files in browser, or you can open it with live server. For example, you can collapse this, and that, for example, if we write h1 tag and write hello and then press save, and then we come here and then press refresh, we see hello here. So this is how you can open files in Visual Studio Code. The other way for you to open files is by live server, going to the extension tab, and let me close this and collapse this. So these are the extensions that I installed already, and you can install it. So I've installed 41 extensions: an auto rename tag and beautify. You can also install bracket pair colorizer. It's a really useful extension. Again, when you write code, it colorizes them. This is another cool extension that I recommend you guys installing. Also the color picker. So the other extension that I would definitely recommend is live server, which again, it allows you to open your servers for live and then see them in action. I'll show you guys how you can open live server. And then material icon theme. This is my favorite theme, but you can download any theme that you want. So this is how you would download your themes. And then also SVG. This extension allows you to preview SVG in Visual Studio Code. So these are the extensions that I would recommend you guys installing. But let's go back to our Explorer, and then let's go here. Let's collapse this. So the way you would open a live server is usually it either shows up here, or you can press right click and then open with live server. Now this is the normal file and this is the live server. So right now let's open another h2 tag and write test2 and then press save. See, it gets automatically updated, and this one it doesn't get updated. So this is a cool extension again. Another thing in Visual Studio Code, so you see that we created our structure, and for example if we create our index.js, now we have JavaScript here. So if we have JavaScript, it shows that it's JavaScript. And in JavaScript, for example, if you write for, it automatically completes a for loop for you. We'll get to that later, but this code snippet gets automatically generated in JavaScript. The way that you have to see and differentiate is that in here it's HTML. So for example, if we write for, it doesn't get automatically generated like we have other Emmet suggestion, because the file extension is .html. So for example, if I press tab, you see that it doesn't behave the same way. So you have to realize that. So the way that we have to do, and Control Z, by the way, is like the same thing with other design programs. It kind of undoes your action. So the other thing that we need to keep in mind is the file extension. So every file extension behaves differently in Visual Studio Code, and the way we would do it is by checking whether we enabled it. So we go here and then we can preview the file extension .js, the one that we just created, and .html. And if you double click .html, you can even open it from your own folder. Not necessarily you have to open it from desktop, but the way that you can see the extension is by going on view and option and then change search, and then you go to view again, and then you can enable the file extension here. So usually by default it's hide. So if I hide it and press apply, you don't see the file extension. So you have to uncheck this and press apply and OK, so you could see the extension. This would help you to see the extensions, and this is how we're going to create file structure here in Visual Studio Code. Usually if you don't see this tab, it's because it's hidden by default maybe. So you can just collapse this and under view tab and open it through this view tab again, folder options. So make sure you enable this in Mac version as well, since I'm using Windows. And in the next video we're going to learn how to write our first line of HTML.